What's poppin', you guys? How y'all doing this week? If y'all new here, my name's Ciara, and this is Self-Made Energy, where we want for nothing because we can manifest anything. This week, this week, you guys, I want to get into this cute little fit I got on right now because, honestly, I am feeling myself in this fit. Y'all don't get me started because it is too cute. And excuse the sniffling because allergies really got me messed up, but this intro has to go on, allergies or not, so we're gonna sniffle through it and y'all gonna be all right. But anyway, yes, it's the Tweed of Hearts set, and oh my god, you'll see why in a minute. You know what, let's just stop talking because I don't even have nothing to say. Let's get into it.
How wonderful, isn't it? How wonderful would it be?
Okay, so before I actually get started, I wanted to actually take a look at the piece that I'm going to use to make my pattern, just to maybe like go into a little bit more depth at how I use clothes to make patterns. So this is a skirt. I'm going to make a skirt out of this nice little pink tweed fabric, and this skirt fits me almost perfectly. The only thing I would change about this skirt is the waistband is a little too tight. I would make it maybe half an inch to an inch bigger, not much bigger. Everything else fits perfectly. The length is a little bit longer than I like, but that's okay because you can change the length later. The length is something that's easily changeable, whereas the fit needs to be determined now. So this is the front of the skirt, and you can see the edge, the seams. The front of the skirt is really pretty flat. There's no darts in it. There's no extra fabric. Everything's pretty flat for the front. So you could literally just lay this out on the fabric, one layer, and cut it out right around, no problem. Now let's switch over to the back. The back is a little bit different. You can see there's some extra fabric. Even though this is the seam, there's more fabric on the back. It doesn't lay perfectly flat like the front did. There's also some darts, which take in a lot of this fabric at the waistline, so it can fit nice and tight at the waist and still flare out around the rest of your body. That's also why you need some sort of zipper or buttons or some sort of closure, because the waistline is going to be very taken in, but this part is going to be fitted towards the rest of your body, and your hips are wider than your waist, at least for most. So to do this back pattern, I'm actually just going to cut straight up instead of taper to the side, because I know that there is a little bit of extra fabric. There's not much, but it is extra. I would say maybe about an inch. So we can just go straight up, and then you can take this extra piece that would be left here into the darts. And that's what they basically did. I'm just doing this without making a pattern. And when you cut it out, you're also not gonna wanna cut out the waistband. So you would fold the waistband out of the way. Probably the other way, looks better. Now when you flatten this out, it's still not gonna be flat on the sides because of that fold over from the seam. And that's fine, just make sure you leave a little bit of extra space when you're cutting. You're also gonna notice that once you flatten it out, the back is actually longer than the front. So you'll notice that once you flatten everything out, it's slightly longer, about an inch longer. But you need that to curve around your bum, so make sure you leave that space. It does come slightly curved. And then you can cut around that. For the front, you're also going to want to notice the front waistline also dips down slightly. So when you're folding that over, you are going to notice that as well. And you can see now how different everything is. It's nice and flat. There's no wrinkles, there's no buckles, because this is just one flat piece. And you can see the shortness in the front. So you would just want to fold this back piece out of the way so you can cut that seam nice and even. Now what I'm gonna do, I was thinking about using this frayed edge for the bottom because I wanted it to have a little bit of fraying. I thought that would be cute. And I also wanted my top to be slightly higher, to come up and kind of dip a little bit right under the breast line So I can have some sort of belt here where the waistband would be. That's what I'm thinking about. I'm not sure yet. And you can see the stitching. There's pockets on this as well. I'm gonna make different shape pockets. But let me show you the skirt. Now just make sure everything's nice and flat. And because I want that waistband to go up, I'm not gonna fold this piece out of the way. But if you actually wanted it to be just this size, you would have to fold this waistband out of the way and make a separate waistband. So that's how I would cut out the front. This is just with the seams on the inside, so it's a little bit easier to work with. And then for the back, again, there is extra fabric that you can't really smooth out of the way. You're just gonna have to account for it. And again, you could just cut straight up because this piece is gonna be taken into the darts. For the front piece, you would just cut directly around it. So, now that that's done, let's actually get into it. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do is cut out the front and back of my pattern. And like I told you before, I'm making mine just 3 inches higher just because I want it to be a little bit higher in the final design. But yeah, everything else is pretty much the same as I told you before. And don't forget to leave your seam allowance when you're cutting your pattern out, or it won't fit you later. So always leave that seam allowance. If anything, leave a little bit extra, just in case. Once I have my pieces cut out, I make sure to mark where the waist is, because I want my darts to start at the true waist, not at the actual top of the piece. I want to have a ruffling detail at the top, which you'll see what I'm talking about later. But in order to make that ruffle detail, I need my darts to start at the true waist. So, if you want your skirt to be like mine's, make sure your darts start at the true waist and not all the way at the top. And I guess in this case, when I say true waist, I mean your true high waist, because this is a high-waisted skirt. But yeah, once I figured out where I actually wanted my darts to be, I just pinned them into place. And then it was time to head over to Trixie and sew the darts into place. And before I start sewing, I do just want to mention to make sure you do a test strip. Make sure you test your fabric in your machine. Make sure you check the tension of the thread. Just make sure everything works well together, because this is something that should be done every time you use a different fabric. And I know I don't mention it every video, but I think I just pop in every now and then and make sure you guys know, just in case you're new to sewing, you definitely need to check the tension of your machine before you start sewing different kinds of fabric. But yeah, now that I have my darts in place, I just double checked with the original skirt, since I'm using that as my pattern, just to make sure everything's lined up correctly. And now I'm just going to attach the front and back right sides together, and I'm going to pin up those side seams. Once they're pinned together, I'm just going to do a straight stitch right along the edge. Once you have everything sewn together, this is the time that you would try your skirt on to make sure that the darts were in the right place and that they took in the right amount of fabric. In my case, I needed an extra dart. Once all my darts were pinned into place and set where I wanted them to be, this is where you would decide if you want to put a zipper on the side or in the front or in the middle back or where. I decided center front is where my zipper is going to be. So I just sliced right up the middle, opening that center front. Also, I don't want to forget to mention to leave seam allowance for your zipper when you're measuring the space for your darts, or when you're cutting your piece out. Whenever you're measuring your space, make sure you leave at least a 1/2 inch of seam allowance extra for your zipper, because you're going to need it since you cut your piece in half. I don't worry about it because I always leave a little extra, but just in case you're cutting it close, make sure to leave that allowance for your zipper. So now I'm just evening out the waistband and changing the shape a little bit because I knew I wanted it to peek up right in that very front and then dip down around the back. So I just changed the shape a little bit. And now I'm moving on to doing the facing. And usually you would cut out the facing at the same time as you cut out the pattern. But because I have a modified top, there was no pattern for this top. So I'm just going to follow the actual top line of the skirt and just pin the facing to that. And I am paying very close attention to those ruffles or those pleats. I'm making sure that the facing is folding inside those pleats because you want your facing to be as flat as possible. Your facing is basically just the lining that's going to be seen. So you use your fashion fabric to make it a facing. But yes, you definitely want this to be as flat as possible. You can also use facing to strengthen your pieces or if you want to add a decorative design. But in this case, I'm just using it as faux lining for my waistband that's going to be showing. But yes, once I have my facing and my skirt pinned right sides together, I just do a straight stitch right along that top edge, and then I just trimmed any excess and I cut notches in any curved edges because you're actually going to flip this facing over and you're going to do a top stitch right along that edge so that the facing stays inside the skirt and all the raw edges from the top will be hidden inside. So this is what she's looking like so far, and she's looking pretty cute, I must say. So now I'm just gonna go straight ahead and do a straight stitch and do that understitching right along that very top edge of the facing. And again, that's to make sure that the facing stays flipped on the inside and it doesn't want to flip outwards. So now that the understitching is done, I'm going to do the tedious task of taking the facing and double folding that bottom edge and pinning it right along that quote-unquote waistband. Because there's not actually a waistband there, I would be creating the waistband with this facing. So you do want to make sure these lines are extra straight and everything's nice and even. So take your time with this. Definitely take your time with this part. I did end up opening the side seams on the waistband so I can have an easier time folding in the facing. So I did just have to also fold those edges in and stitch around those edges as well. But yeah, I just did a straight stitch along that waistband or quote-unquote waistband. Now it actually is a waistband because we're creating it now. So I just pinned along that waistband and did a straight stitch along the waistband, making sure to catch the front and the back and the facing folded, everything, catch everything, all the raw edges, leave no raw edge left behind. Okay, so I'm gonna cut in because I just realized my phone died and I did a whole bunch of stuff on my phone wasn't even recording, so I'm about to catch it for you real quick right here. So basically I'm making pockets and this is what the finished pocket is gonna look like. I wanted to have a little fringe on the side to match the bottom of the skirt, and it's not attached yet, it's just sitting on top of it. It is double layered just so the inside could also have lining on it. Now I have to do the exact same thing to the other pocket. I don't know if you can see or not, but I did double stitching just around the entire perimeter twice, just in case it wanted to fray a little bit extra and it went past the first row of stitching. There's like a second one just for like a barrier. And I just cut this out on 4 pieces of fabric, and I just used my script from when I did the Hey Arnold video. And if you haven't seen that, you should definitely check it out because I worked really hard on it. As you can see, I made a script, so yeah, check that out. But anyway, I'm gonna get finished fraying the edges of this pocket, and then I'm gonna attach them, and then I think I'm gonna figure out what kind of zipper I'm gonna use or make the belt. Either way, one of those things are gonna happen, but I'm probably not gonna record it because my phone is dying right now and I just want to get things done. So we're gonna move ahead and let my phone charge, and we'll see where I'm at once my battery's up.
How wonderful, isn't it? How wonderful.
Okay, you guys, so I'm just cutting right here because I ended up ODing off camera. I know, I was like, I'm just gonna throw on the pocket and do the zipper real quick. So I did, and here she is. Pockets is on, zipper is on, she's looking bomb. However, I also ended up putting the belt together, and I meant to do that on camera. So here we are, the belt is together. I just did a few straight stitches in the middle just for design purposes and to kind of make it a little more stiff. And now I'm going to do the hard task of fraying these edges because I want them to match the pockets. You see how the pockets are nice and frayed here? I want this to also be frayed. So I'm gonna do that, and I'm not gonna waste your time even fraying it on camera. We're just gonna pop back in when everything is done. So here we go.
You're not ready. That's right. What? Ooh. That's right. Oh, yeah. Moving my body right, moving my body, 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 moving my body right. Moving my body. Work. 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 Work.
Are you not entertained? Because I am. You guys, this came out so freaking bomb. Like, I am so in love with this piece. I mean, I'm usually in love with all my pieces, but this one got me. It got me right by the heartstrings. I love it. But anyway, I hope you guys loved it as much as I do. And if you did, make sure you subscribe. And make sure you hit that notification bell so you know every time I'm dropping some heat, because I'm usually dropping some heat. So make sure you get your notifications on. And don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoyed it. And share this with your friends and family so they know what's up over here, because I'm kind of popping. I don't know. I'm kind of popping. But anyway, I'm done here. Until next time, you guys. I'm wishing you all love, peace, and cupcakes. Bye.